Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and man, this is going to be fun. So, Tony Danza, of course, you know him from everything: Taxi, Who's the Boss, Angels in the Outfield, and now you can see him as mob boss Stefano Marchetti in Power Book 3, Raising Kanan on the Starz network. And he joins us here in the National Defense. Tony, how you doing, man?
Well, Randy, thank you for having me. It's so good to be on.
It's like I feel like I know you because I've seen you so much through the years on every show and just really enjoyed your work through the years. You probably get that a lot from people, right?
I appreciate, really, please, I appreciate it. But, there's just something about being around a while. It's like after a while, it's like, oh, he's an icon or but I don't know. I just keep trying to work. That's all.
But you're also one of those guys, though, Tony. I think that just your personality, people, I'm sure you don't feel like they could. Hey, Tony, how you doing? What's going on?
Well, I used to say that on Who's the Boss, that was me in a good mood. And so people expect that all the time,
That's right,
So
right.
it's wonderful, though. I've been blessed. I mean, we're talking about in 1977, I'm training for a fight at Gleason's Gym on 30th and 8th Avenue in Manhattan. And a guy walks in and his name was Stuart Sheslow, and he was trying to do a pilot about a young boxer, and he saw me, and he said to me, "You ever think about being on TV?" And I said, "Well, who does it?" And by the way, remember, back then TV was very different. There were only three networks, so if
Right.
you were on TV, it was rarefied air. And so like everybody else, you had dreams and wild dreams, but this one came true.
Oh man, that is so cool. We're talking to Tony Danza here on the National Defense. And speaking of
By the way,
fighters,
I won the fight I was training for too. By the way,
what you want to
I
what?
just won, I just said I won the fight I was training for. By
Oh,
the
you
way,
did win. Hey,
yes, I did do that.
listen. I've seen your record. You won most of your fights.
Yeah, I won. I won most of them. Yeah, but I did lose a few. Believe me, I
Uh,
did. And I always felt. I felt like I should have. I always said if I got beat by somebody that I did my best and they beat me, I would quit. Because then what am I doing?
right.
But I never got beat by anybody better than me. I usually beat myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I was young and I was stupid and all that stuff.
I mean, do you still kind of hang on to that and think, man, maybe I could have taken it further?
Well, you know what I did, Randy? This is how nuts I am. Is that after I got Taxi, so now I'm in Taxi, and I do a year of the show. And so, there's a hiatus, and usually you go do a TV movie back then. Well, I took a fight. I took two fights. I tried to make a comeback. I figured I turned the TVQ into a title shot. I might get lucky, hit somebody on the chin, and then I'd be champion of the world and have a series. You can dream. So I fought the two fights. I fought in Madison Square Garden, and in the theater, excuse me, in the theater at Madison Square Garden as the main event. And I knocked the guy out there. Arthur McCanty, the great referee, held my arm up in the middle of in Madison Square Garden ring, and then I went to Tucson to fight a guy, and I got hit with a punch that I should not have gotten hit with, and I didn't lose. I came back and won the fight,
Ah,
but I sort of understood that I wasn't thinking about the right thing anymore. I kind of was worried. Geez, I hope this guy don't hit me on the nose. And he hit me on the nose. He hit me. That was amazing.
now,
So that's when I said, nah, I'll just try to stick with TV.
and did you get any of the taxi people come and see you?
Oh yeah, everybody. Well, the one in New York, everybody came.
That's cool.
I'm telling you, I'll never forget, and I don't know why this sticks out, but Merv Griffin was there, and Merv,
Really?
Merv was a friend, and so he showed up for the fight.
Huh.
I mean, it was amazing. The Taxi people, Randy, I was really naive. I was a fighter. I mean, I'd gone to college and stuff, but I hadn't really, I had no acting
Hmm.
training at all. And you got to think about these people. So you have this you have this bunch of actors who are knocking around Hollywood, and they finally get this show, and it's really unbelievable. The show is going to be unbelievable. It's got the best writers on TV. They're all coming from the Mary Tyler Moore Show with all their Emmys. It's got the best director, Jimmy Burrows. It's got the best time slot. It was after the number one show on TV, Three's Company. So we had the best time slot, and it was on at the time the hippest network, ABC. Well, there's only one problem. That sounds great, right? But there's only one problem. We found this boxer in New York. He's never acted. We're going to put him in the show. And the cast, who I love so much, they welcomed me
Wow.
with open arms, and it was because of that I could thrive. I think, had there been some resentment, and by the way, I've run into resentment from other actors. I said to a guy one time, a famous actor said to me, "What are you doing?" I said that we met on the street in New York. I says, "I got a series coming on Netflix, with a good cop." He says to me, "Geez," and the rest of us had to go to acting school. And he walked away.
Oh.
I was like, "Hey, leave me alone.
Right.
Take a right hand. See what that's like."
Yeah. What kind of series you got, pal?
Yeah. So was that?
You guys just had a reunion, right?
That's the funny thing, Randy. People say, "Oh, it's a reunion. We're all together." I saw them last Tuesday. I mean, we see each other a lot. And you know what else we do? We have a Zoom every month.
Oh, that's cool.
So everybody gets together and we're all on it. We stay on for 2-3 hours sometimes.
That's cool. That's really cool.
It's magnificent. And it includes Jim Brooks, the creator of the show, one of the creators, and the brilliant Jim Brooks, and Danny and Judd. And Judd, I don't know if he'll mind me saying this, but he just turned 90 Saturday.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
and Danny's
we're all getting up there. Man.
Danny's 80.
On 46 years ago, 40 something years ago.
Yeah. But you know what? I went back and I watched a couple of episodes just to see. Man, it stands up like crazy.
Here.
Funny's funny.
Here. This is a joke that I think is emblematic of Taxi's humor. All right. So the scene opens with me knocking on a rectory door. The door opens, the priest is standing there, and I say, "Father, could I talk to you, please?" And he says, "Sure, Tony, come in." He says, "Tony, what's the matter?" I said, "Well, Father, I lost my job. The garage closed, and I lost my job. And I tried to find another job, and I couldn't find another job, Father. And so I had to take a job as a collector for my uncle, the bookmaker." And the priest goes, "Oh, Tony." I said, "No, but Father, listen, I don't do it like everybody does, like the other guys do it. I don't break bones to get the money. I don't hurt nobody to get the money." And he says, "Well, then, Tony, why have you come to me so troubled?" And I say, "Because you owe $300." You see, that's the kind of stuff that we got to do. And it was. Let me tell you, I really mean it. It was my acting school. I really learned from them.
Yeah.
I was smart enough to open my eyes, and it was impossible not to learn because they were all so good.
Yeah.
You were around Danny DeVito for a while. You start to get it.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Guy's still doing. He's 80 years old. He's still doing it.
Amazing. He is. I have a teen acting program here in the city. It's a free program for New York City high school.
Oh, that's
kids.
cool.
Called the Starz of Tomorrow Project. I've been doing it since 2011, but as our own nonprofit the last 3 years. And Danny, as you know, is by the way, the slogan is, "When you teach a kid how to act, you teach a kid how to act." That's our slogan. So Danny has been my biggest supporter. He's just been unbelievable.
Wow.
He chairs my our benefits, and he's been an incredible. I think I'm seeing some of that Jersey Mike money. So it's
right, exactly. Oh, that's so cool.
He's one of the greatest guys you've ever met, and maybe one of the most talented at the same time.
We're talking to Tony Danza here in the National Defense. Hey, speaking of fighting and fighters, I know that you produced the sitcom for George Foreman.
Isn't that great, Randy, that you knew that? Because nobody mentioned it.
Listen, that was one of the first things. And I went back and watched a couple of episodes of that. And how was it working with George, man?
Well, it was unbelievable. I was, being a fighter and then being in his presence. And it really aggravated me, because what really aggravated me was ABC, because they put the show on, and they put it on against the basketball playoffs, and it still did okay. And here you had a larger than life black man telling kids to stay in school and do their homework.
Right.
That's what the show was basically about. He ran a kids home, and it was great. And I told ABC, I said, listen, don't cancel this because in a few months he's going to be champion of the world. And he was again champion of the world, and they canceled the show. So
Wow.
they didn't do it.
Wow.
But what just working with him, first of all, he was, he didn't know how to do it. He really didn't,
Sure.
but he learned fast. He really did. And,
Smart dude.
And I love the shows. I thought we did some really good shows.
Well, and I mean to have George Foreman right there, like you said, right before his comeback and everything, and Tony, you gotta. I know you appreciate that comeback. I mean, at his age, everybody told him he's too fat. You can't. You're too old. Yeah,
old is the thing, Randy. Everything, it's always old. The old guy comes back. They go, oh, he looked good in the gym, and boom, it doesn't work. Look what happened to Tyson. I mean,
right.
Look how good he looks, and then boy, but it's the old thing. That's the thing, and I mean, if you watch that fight, he predicted it too. He said, the guy's going to be running around, but then later in the fight, he's going to stand in front of me, and I'm going to knock him out. And if you watch what happens, he sort of hits him with a right hand. The exchange before, and it was like I thought, oh wait a minute, and I said, nah, I didn't get it. And then he just drops this little right hand, bink, and the guy, out. It was amazing. And if I'll never forget. I went to school in Iowa. I went to school at the University of Dubuque, and I was out there for something when he fought Frazier. And I was in the bar that we used to hang out in the dungeon. And I'll never forget, down goes Frazier. I mean, he lifted him off the ground.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
And I was in the ring with Joe Frazier. And I didn't, he really wanted to box. And I thought he was going to have a flashback because he was one of the scariest guys you've ever seen in the ring. Oh, my God.
I thought he should have beaten Ali. I really did.
Well, he that's the greatest fighter and maybe one of the greatest men of all time. I mean, I tell you a quick story. I saw him at radio. I was playing radio. What the hell's the name of it? It's called Rainbow and Stars. It's on top of Radio City. Excuse me, on top of Rockefeller Center. I was up there rehearsing. We had the show that night. I was up there doing a sound check. Guy came up and said Norman Mailer and his wife were downstairs. He had just written a book. They wondered if you'd come down to the book party. I knew him. So I said, oh, I'd love to. I run down, and who's there but Muhammad Ali?
Oh, wow.
He's sitting there, and he goes, what are you doing here? I said, you won't believe it, but I'm upstairs singing and dancing. He looks at his watch, and he goes, what time? And he did come to see me, but that's not the story. I stayed with him and I fooled around with, I was with Norman Mailer for about 15, 20 minutes. And I ran back upstairs. I finished the sound check in about another 20 and I went down and exited on the 50th Street side. As soon as I got outside, there was a sea of people. And in the middle of it was Muhammad Ali signing autographs. He's shaking because he wasn't in good shape.
Right.
And Howard Bingham, his guy, was shepherding him around. And I'll be honest, I watched for over an hour. He signed every autograph. And thank God it wasn't phone, so nobody was draping themselves on him or anything. But even so, there were guys that were so gruff by the way they did it. I wanted to wade into the crowd and knock a couple of guys out.
Really?
That's aggravated watching him. And then after he finished, I ran up to him and I said, champ, why? Why do you put yourself through that? Why? And he leans down and he whispers to me because he couldn't really speak anymore. He said, I'm just trying to get into heaven. Wow. That was him.
Wow.
And by the way, he was in the gym. I was fighting a guy in Prospect Hall in Brooklyn on October 1st, and he was fighting Kenny Norton at Yankee Stadium on September 28th. And he was training in the gym. He was training at Cleveland. And I went there. I got there the day he was there. I was so excited that he was going to be there. And they had VIP dressing rooms up on the top. There was a staircase. It used to be a bank, I think. So the staircase went up, and the VIP was up there. And when you box, you get into the gym. You go and you warm up. And you just bounce around the ring. If there's nobody sparring, you bounce around the ring. And the bell rings at 3. The bell rings at 1. That kind of thing. So I was glancing up and seeing if I was going to see him. I couldn't wait to see him. And it was the Ali Road show. You had to see there was a million people in the place and everything else. And so he all of a sudden he appears at the top of the stairs. He's in a white terry cloth robe. I mean, it's Muhammad Ali. It's like this is like 1977. Okay. And I looked up and our eyes met. And of course, I averted my eyes. I can't look at him. You know what I mean? So when I averted my eyes, he started to scream, ah, ah. And he ran down, and everybody stopped, and he ran down the steps. And this was an incredible feat of physicality. He jumped up onto the trainer's table, and then with one thing jumped over the top rope.
Oh, wow.
Landed in the ring.
Wow.
And there were 3 guys in there, 2 other guys with me who were, just warming up. We were all standing there looking at him, and he was coming right towards me. And he kept coming, and he got me in a headlock, and he started giving me noogies. And he said, "Go back to school, white boy. This game ain't for you." And so years later, I tell him the story, and he goes, "That was you?"
What a great story.
Oh, it's amazing.
My gosh, we're talking to Tony Danza here on the National Defense. You're talking about singing and dancing. You're still doing that, man. I know you had a show in New Jersey. You got one coming up in Pennsylvania. And I'm
in Delray Beach next month, April. I'm down there the 14th through the 16th. I got 6 shows down there, and then I come back to the Carlisle here in June, which is great to play the Carlisle.
Yeah.
And it's become something. This was just a choice. You wake up one day and you say, what haven't I done? What do I want to do? I mean,
really, you could live about 19 lifetimes.
I want to be a song and dance man. And I had been tap dancing for about 10 years by then. It was in 95. And I put together an act. And, the original act had a lot in it. Had 2 girls, had another dancer. It had videotape. It had all the trappings because I was afraid to be up there. So little by little, I got better at it. I shed the trappings, you know what I mean? And so now it's me and a 4-piece band, and it's the most fun you could ever have.
Sinatra stuff?
Well, you know what I did? I wrote 2 shows. I wrote a show called Standards and Stories, which I've been playing, and basically self-explanatory stories of my career, my life, my mother, and the American Songbook. Try to get some laughs, tap dance, play a little ukulele too. I'm a ukulele.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah. So then I wrote one just recently. I wrote one last year, called Sinatra and Stories, because I was around him. The one thing I'm really guilty about is I didn't serve, but we'll get to that in a minute. But I just had this timing.
Hey, you've been serving all your life, man.
But I haven't had the time. I've had this timing. So I grew up in 50s and 60s in East New York and Brooklyn. The greatest time to grow up in Brooklyn in the world. It was the greatest. And then I went to college in 68. And so I was in college through all of that.
Right.
And then I got back to New York, and I didn't want to teach, which was what I went to school for. So I end up in the gym, and I'm in the gyms in New York in the early 70s when everybody's here. I boxed Duran. I beat Enterfermo, Hamsho Mustafa, Eddie Gregory. I mean, all these great fighters and the great trainers. The guy who trained me was Chicky Ferrara, one of the great old time guys. I think he was the prototype for Rocky's trainer, Mickey Burgess.
Oh, really? Really?
Yeah. He had the thing. His gruff. He never gave you a compliment. I tell you, one time I boxed Duran, and I did pretty well. And I was feeling particularly worthy that day. And he was taking off my gloves, and this is before Velcro, so he was unlacing them. There was a sign on the wall, Randy, and it said, I always wondered about this sign. It said, rub downs, $5. Now, I never had the nerve to ask, but I wondered about that sign. I never saw anybody get a rub down either. So I say, because that day I felt particularly worthy, I say, Chicky, what's the story with the rub downs? He doesn't even look up. He continues doing it. He grabs puts together the gloves, and he says, before he walks away, he says, good fighters don't need them, and bad fighters don't deserve them. And he walked away. He didn't tell me which one I was either. That was the other problem. But that was his kind of guy. So then from the gym, I end up in Hollywood, and everybody's around, including Sinatra. And somehow my mother made him really, she got me interested in him when I was like 8. And now I get to be with him and around him. And by the way,
Wow.
Randy, when you go to Frank Sinatra's house for dinner, do you know whose music is playing? Frank Sinatra's.
Yeah, it better be Frank Sinatra, huh? Oh my gosh. Yeah, I mean, Tony, you've had such an extraordinary life in terms of just people you met, things you've done,
And I just had my third grandchild. My daughter
oh,
had a little girl named Rosie. She's 2 months old yesterday. So
listen,
I'm living pretty good.
I just had my first grandchild. Oh
Congratulations.
my gosh, thank you, and
You know,
congratulations to you. And I was interviewing a comedian named Leanne Morgan, who is just hilarious from the South. And I said, I'm getting ready to meet my new granddaughter, and she said, "Oh, honey," she said, "you are going to fall in love." And boy,
I do a joke. There's a difference between being a grandfather and a father. So if Abraham had said to, excuse me, if God had said to Abraham, "Yo, Abraham," by the way, that's the way God talks. "Yo, Abraham, you have to sacrifice your grandchild, your grandson." Abraham would say, "God, the son maybe, but not the grandson."
right, right.
Like, I watched my grandson play. I got a 13-year-old and I got a 19-year-old one at Kansas. But I watched my grandson play baseball Sunday, a doubleheader.
Oh wow,
It's the most amazing thing. He gets a hit and runs around the
yeah.
bases. Your heart's,
Yeah.
it's really fun.
It is funny when we're on because Gloria, little Gloria, just turned 3 months old, and so our daughter lives in L.A. and we don't ask, we demand a FaceTime every single day. I mean, it's not even an option. I mean,
No,
we got to see Gloria.
required.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Required.
mandatory.
By the way, my daughter's in LA too,
Is that
Randy.
right?
Yeah, interestingly enough,
We
yeah.
we just went out there and met Gloria not too long ago, and didn't expect to stay 18 days, but ended up as part of the wildfire situation out there.
Oh, that's
And I mean, it got close to them. But how about your daughter? Is she okay?
Well, I lived out there 35 years, so I've been through it too. I lived in Malibu for 25, so I,
Okay.
I went through a bunch of that stuff. My daughter she was 9 months pregnant and she got evacuated. But
Oh,
luckily, she lives in the Hollywood Hills, and luckily they put that fire out real fast.
yeah,
She
yeah. I
she,
remember
she
that.
lucked out, and I got my son out there too, and so everybody, luckily, scary, but they all hung on to their houses.
Yeah, it's a tough deal.
Well,
I want to ask you. I want to ask you about a show that I loved that you were in, and I don't know why it ever stopped. And I'm talking about the Tony Danza show, the variety show that you did. And I went back and watched the first episode of that. I mean, you talk about coming rolling out with some big guests. You got Liza Minnelli and Regis Philbin. Man,
Reese was my pal, and he lived in we live. I was optimistic. I got picked up for the second year of that show.
right.
And so I bought an apartment in across the street, and I would walk to work with Regis in the morning. He was on at 9, I was on at 10. We were good friends. But the problem is now I got an apartment with a great view of the job I used to have because I could see it across the street.
I've been
I
there.
could go in. No, it was. Let me tell you, that was some of the most 2 years of the most fun I've ever. I
God,
really mean it.
you were such a natural.
Well, it was live, first of all.
Yeah.
It's live. I'm pretty good. I mean, I don't. I couldn't stand if when you go to these talk shows that are taped, you do it, and then they do it again, and then they do it, and then
Right.
they edit it. You don't
Right.
even see what you did.
Right.
So it was live. It was exciting. It went on at 11 o'clock, and it was. I mean, 10 o'clock, and it was over at 11.
That was
And
great.
so it was really. And we did 365 hours of TV.
Oh
So
wow.
we did a little
Wow.
bit.
You had such a great tribute to your dad, the garbage man, on
Yeah.
that, and had the garbage
Well,
truck.
not only that, the war hero. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I want to get to that. Yeah. Tell
he's
us.
in World War II. He's in three of the biggest battles. He's in Arno, Po Valley, and Apennines. He's in three of those
Oh
battles.
wow.
He has a Bronze Star.
Oh wow.
He's he. I mean, I hold on a second. Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
You got the star?
Wait a minute.
We're talking to Tony Danza here in the National Defense. He's retrieving something.
What, Andy? This is worth it, I promise.
I love it.
I had to go inside. Check this out.
Oh, wow.
My uncle made this. My uncle made it for him. And there's the star.
Look at that handsome guy.
The handsome guy, yeah.
Oh, my gosh.
If I could kill that
wow. Wow.
And he's got, he's 5th Airborne.
Wow.
And, he was quite a guy.
Man. And how long was he in, Tone?
Well, he was in, I think he's in 3.5 years.
Okay. That sounds about right.
He's over 3 years.
Yeah.
And he never talked about it.
I was just going to ask you, did he ever talk about his service? Because that always that's what happens.
I lost my father when I was 32. And I was just, I think, at the age when you realize, oh, this guy has something to tell you.
Yeah.
But he was gone, and so I never really got to talk to him about this. Think about those battles to be in.
Oh.
Well, I mean, I would be holy. And he never talked about it.
Wow. Was he okay when he got back?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
He lost a brother. My uncle Tony died in the war. But, and he had, my father had 6 brothers. So there was a whole bunch of them that went.
Did you ever go on a USO tour?
I did. Yeah, a long time ago. I don't know why they don't ask me. I'd love to do it. I'd love to do that.
Yeah, I just talked to, we interviewed David Blaine, the magician, yesterday, and I guess
Sure, I know. I love David.
Yeah. He and John Stewart went on one, I guess, a few years ago to Afghanistan. And it's so funny when you talk to people who go on USO tours or appear at military bases or whatever, the things that they get out of it versus what, it's amazing.
I tell you, I have a hole in my history, and that is I never served. But I have Randy, this is a crazy story. I'm afraid to tell it to you. But I was in college, and I think it was 1970, and they dropped the student deferments were gone, and I was 1A. I got called for my physical, and in Iowa they had a bus that went from little town and city, and they brought you to Des Moines to the army base, and took you over a physical. And I was a long-haired wise guy, and I got there, and I got down there, and was with all these other guys, and they were all, everybody was who didn't want to go. That was the big thing.
Right.
And the sergeant came in, and he had a cast on his foot, and so you could hear him coming. And he also, his name was Sergeant Cox, which also, it's kids,
Right.
you gotta, anyway. So I wasn't the best recruit. I was just, I was like, I don't want to. Anyway, so what happened was he didn't particularly care for me. So what happened was he called us together to give a sheet of paper, which was some instructions for what we were going to be doing. And he gave us the paper, so I just figured I didn't have to stand there. I could go read it on my bunk, and I was walking away. And he goes, "Where you going?" I said, "I'm going to go read the thing. You gave me this thing." He goes, "That's okay, a-hole. 90 days, you're mine." So I'm like, oh, Jesus, now I got a problem. So anyway, passed the physical and everything else. And I'm 1A. I passed the physical. And then about 3 weeks after that, the lottery comes out, and I'm number 8. So I'm going, right?
Wow.
I'm going. The guy said, 90 days, you're mine. I waited. 90 days came. And by the way, I was in a situation where I was kind of thinking, man.
I was just going to say, so how are you feeling at this point?
Well, I was married. I was young, married.
I would be scared shitless.
I wasn't. I wasn't. And I know I probably would have got killed because I would have been, follow me. I would have been one of those schmoes.
Right.
But although I don't know, I get there, I probably would have been so scared for my life. I don't know what I'm talking about. But I just didn't get called. They just missed me.
Well, they knew.
I'm afraid to tell you this.
They knew that God had bigger plans for you. I think that's what it was. Listen, I started this show almost gosh, almost 12 years ago with a Vietnam vet, God rest his soul, by the name of Jerry Newberry. And Jerry was in Vietnam. He was 101st Airborne Screaming Eagle. And whenever anybody would come on and say, I didn't get to serve or I didn't serve, Jerry would go, good for you. I mean, because, and nobody wanted to go to Vietnam. Nobody wanted to come back from Vietnam. And those guys, I feel like through the years, they've gotten the appreciation they deserve. But no, man, you're right
initially,
where you need to be.
And I'm telling you, one of my best friends, Billy Esposito, was, we were good, we were kids together. He didn't come back. So, it was like And I remember my father lost a brother, my uncle, to my namesake. So there's always that in my that in my brain,
Well, hey, listen,
I was going, Randy. I was going.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going. My father. How could I not go?
I was going to say. I mean, your dad's probably jumping up and down about this, right?
Well, no, my father. He wasn't crazy about the Vietnam War.
Yeah,
he was not even though he was a war.
Sure.
He wasn't crazy about that war. He wasn't sure he wanted his son to go there.
Well, I mean, people didn't even know it was a war or not. I mean, it was just such a weird deal, especially after World War II and Korea. And you're looking at this thing and you're going, do we want to even jump in there? I mean,
geopolitics, at the time.
Yeah. And the guys finally now, they've passed a few things where the guys that were exposed to so much in Vietnam are being compensated. But, a lot of those guys died. A lot of those guys had no benefits.
And you know what else? A lot of those guys are my age.
Yeah.
Are my age.
Right.
And it ain't easy. And if you throw in some of that stuff, it might even be harder. Yeah.
Right.
It's not easy being this age.
I know what you do to stay fit.
I'm in shape.
Exercise and moisturize.
That was a stupid comment.
I heard you say that, I think, on the CBS morning show. That's what
She says to me, do you have any advice for anybody else? The only thing I know is exercise and moisturizer. That's it.
Hey, that's become my mantra now.
It works. It does work. I mean, listen, you got to put in the time, but it does work.
And you probably still box. You
know what I do now? I hit a hold on, Randy. This is going to be a variety show by the time you're finished. Hey, hold on. So I hurt myself. I have arthritis in my wrists. None of them old guys.
Yeah, I know about arthritis.
Nobody took the time to say, hey, kid, take it easy. It's going to hurt you when you get older. But I found some. My son bought me this. It's called...
Oh, I've seen that.
This is called the boxer ball.
Yeah.
You put it on your head and you hit this thing. You can bang it.
Oh, that's pretty good. How many? What's your record? What's your record?
Oh, with this, I'm undefeated with this thing.
Oh man, really, it's so good.
What it does? I incorporated it into you lift weights around it. You can get on the floor and do push-ups around it. But it works you out. It actually does. It's pretty. That's good.
Pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Right now, I've been doing it so much. I could hit a fly on the chin.
Man, you got to have hand-eye coordination for that. I mean, it's got to.
And that's another thing. As you get older, it does help to do that a little bit.
Right.
But I'll be honest with you, Randy. Of all the things I've ever done in my life, I was the best thing I could. My best talent was fighting. I could fight a little bit. That's what they used to say. He could fight a little bit. And that was a great compliment.
That's a tiny fraternity, man. I mean, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, you got to be a little nuts to step up those 4 steps and climb through the ropes in your underwear and fight somebody. It's insane. Well, I sometimes watch it now and think, did I do that?
That's what I said to David Blaine. I'm like, are you? I mean, I said I know you're certifiable, but
he's crazy. He will do some crazy stuff.
He kissed a cobra on the top of its head. Are you kidding me?
Well, what about the ice? What about when he put himself in ice? It's crazy. He's amazing.
He's amazing. Hey, you're amazing, man. Thank you so much for taking the time, Tony. It's been
I'm so happy to do it. I
such
mean
a
it.
pleasure to talk to
You know,
you.
and I thank everybody who's watching for their service, and I mean it. It is one of the really one thing that what happened? Why didn't I? You know, I didn't get to do that. So
Yeah, but you know what? You've been entertaining the troops all your life, so I mean
I appreciate that.
that's the well. You know, we'll have bands on here sometimes, and they'll have like I'll say you were the soundtrack of Vietnam. I mean, you got these guys through it, you know,
Yeah.
and I mean everybody plays a part. So thank you thank you for everything that you've done over the years, Tony,
Well, I
and are
appreciate
still
it.
doing, continuing to do. And now you're the bad guy, which is so weird.
Oh, how about that?
Now it's
Isn't
so weird to see. I mean, you're the mob boss in, you
But
know,
he's congenial. There's congenial malice. You know, he's
true. Yes, right.
you know,
He's
but it is the most fun. You know, it's a part that I shied away from a lot of the Italian wise guys. I haven't had to do
right.
that. A lot of my friends, it's the only job there is. But
Right.
and so when they called me for this, it was during the pandemic, and it was like, I don't know. There's one scene, my agent said, "Why don't you do it?" And then I said, "Who's the actor?" And they said, "Michael Rispoli, who's a fabulous actor." I
Yeah.
said, "Oh, I like Michael. Let me go do it." And I did it. I came home and I said, let me call my agent. I called my agent. I said, I don't think they're going to buy me as the bad guy. And I've been on it now for 3 years.
You're right.
So,
Well, and I just saw a thing yesterday, I guess, when they had a Zoom call for your episode coming up. They had a table read Zoom call, and they said all of a sudden Tony Danza's on a screen, and they're like, we had no idea.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah,
oh, it's
no.
Tony Danza. And
No.
and they were of course delighted, and it seems like a
It is
great
another
fit.
wonderful cast, man. I'm telling you, unfortunately, I don't want to say that. I shouldn't say that. It's on Starz, so it's not like if it was on HBO, I think everybody would be talking about
Right,
it
right.
because it's really well done.
It's really well done.
And it's
And I didn't know that you weren't in it till the end of season 2. So my wife and I are watching season 1. We're like, where's Tony Danza?
yeah.
So and
Until
then
later.
you finally get in there and you make your mark, man, as always. So thank you,
Yeah,
Tony.
let me of the second year, and then they've been keeping me around now.
Yeah. Well, you're so good.
So
at
I'm
it.
pretty happy.
That's so cool, man. Well, I'd love to come and if you're getting near, we're based in Kansas City, and if you get near Kansas City and you're doing your show, I'd love to come and see you.
My grandson, that's where my grandson's going to college.
Right.
He's in Kansas. So yeah, I got to figure something out.
You
Maybe
could do a little twofer, write it off.
Yeah,
Business
sure.
trip.
If I can get a visit out of it, that's great.
That's right. Exactly right. Oh, thank you, Tony. Great to talk to you, man.
Randy, so nice to talk to you. Thank you, everybody. Keep up the good work. Love you much.
We'll be right back here in the National Defense.